We're in the home stretch, and as I said in my non-spoiler review, these last 3 episodes are the good stuff. And yeah, the story's really picking up steam. But I have to say the cast is so large this season and all over the place in terms of, they're divided up so much that I think the show has lost a little bit of focus and a feeling of direction, as it has so many different storylines that it needs to keep going. It's juggling them, and I think it's juggling them well. I'm enjoying the show and the developments, but it's not it's operating on like a good level story-wise, but it's not reaching that higher level that you need to kind of like be really impressed. Although maybe some of you are impressed. Are you impressed with Herogasm? We got to start with Herogasm, of course, which Frenchie has always dreamed of seeing, but now that dream has died, along with a number of Herogasm attendees, because Stranger Boy is still suffering from PTSD, and what do you know? Love Sausage had some Russian music on, and it triggered him. The TNT twins tried to save themselves and stop him, but they literally fizzled out. I know that Herogasm is supposed to be budget. It was even that, well, it was less so in the comics. But it's supposed to be budget, as they say here, a C-list, guest list, hosted by TNT, who are obviously past their prime. But I think you really needed like HBO to do this fantasy justice. I feel that Herogasm here was a little too realistic about what a do-it-yourself orgy would look like. I think that the show oversold it. They've been like, all week, they've been like, this is it, Herogasm. And I think what they really needed to make this work was the sex scene which involved one or hooked up 2 of the main characters on the show. A little bit like the Butcher and Maeve hookup last week. I think you needed something like that to really make Herogasm iconic. Because, you're going to see with the fight between Soldier Boy and Homelander and Butcher, when there is like an emotional aspect to the interaction, it's better. Right? Even though Soldier Boy and Homelander should be the big fight, Homelander and Butcher is more rewarding. So all these people that we don't know having sex in the background, I think isn't that titillating. I don't know, maybe you were titillated. I think the show's acting like this stuff isn't all over the internet already. And I also think it would have helped to have maybe the perspective of one of the sex workers who was working there. I mean, I think the show has to be careful. I mean, they showed a lot. But they showed a lot. But I think that, they want to be careful not to go too far over the line into just becoming porn. But I don't know. I mean, are they doing Herogasm or not? And I think that I think Herogasm needed to be its whole own episode instead of half of an episode and more of the background of the episode of what was going on. But that doesn't mean we don't have some favorite moments. And I'm curious to hear what you thought were the best moments at Herogasm. By far and away, in my opinion, the best moment was the Deep getting it on with an octopus. I think because Chase Crawford just commits so much to the Deep. Not only did Starlight get a pick, almost as if she knew she was about to become an influencer, but also the Deep saves his underwater friend at the end, running out with him or her in a plastic bag. And I loved it when the Deep was like, not now. I just love it from season 1. Whenever the Deep is talking to his underwater friends as if they're like real people and like in a really relaxed, natural way, including arguments. Oh, I just think it's so fun. It's like a darker take on Ariel hanging out with Sebastian and Flounder. I think it's great. I think I'm glad to see the Deep back in the main storyline this season. So I think that stuff's really funny. And it gets even crazier. We have 2 more episodes to go, as you'll see. And fans of the comic, again, will appreciate the Love Sausage cameo, although we get another really up-close look at male anatomy this season. Those visual effects artists, I hope, had a good time. Other top moments. Termite, who, of course, is at Herogasm, having gotten away scot-free from his shenanigans in episode 1, he gets stepped on and killed by Homelander, who doesn't even know that he stepped on Termite, and if he did, he wouldn't even care. But not before Termite, earlier in the show, in Herogasm, gets human fluids all over MM's jacket, which leads up to MM, let's just say, having to just throw that jacket away. And as a germaphobe, I really felt MM's pain here. I was like, oh man, that jacket's toast. I thought that was very funny. But speaking of Termite's death, one of the themes, luckily, of this, I mean, not that this episode doesn't have great moments, but one of the themes running through this episode is that it underscores that there are really no consequences for soups. They kill humans, they kill each other. Vought just cleans it all up with the government's participation. I mean, look how Termite got away. And everyone just moves on, at least the people who are still alive. Ashley even throws that irony in A-Train's face, saying, you've done as much senseless killing as Blue Hawk that Vought has had to clean up for you, but now that it's your brother, suddenly A-Train cares, right? And Ashley gets away with talking so tough with A-Train because he's freaked out that she pulled out such a big chunk of her own hair. That was freaky. I love that. I mean, we have 2 episodes left, but that was great. Side note, the A-Train to Africa trailer that she's watching that's being worked on, so it's still in the editing process, is a great inside joke. Because you'll notice that in one of the shots it has Vought images written over it, which of course is supposed to be a take on Getty images. That Vought, they're in every business. But a lot of trailers and even shows themselves use a lot of Getty still and moving images to save money. Like I was watching screeners for the season 2 of The Flight Attendant, and I was amazed at how much footage, like when you see an establishing shot in a streaming show, it's more likely that they got that from Getty moving images, Getty video, than they went out and shot it themselves. And that's fascinating to me. So I thought, people in the industry would get that joke. And so I love that they included that. But now that A-Train's been on the other side of soup violence, he feels guilty. He even apologizes finally to Huey about Robin when Huey confronts him at Herogasm, and he gives a sincere apology, I felt. And then he takes Blue Hawk out with one final run, making sure that this time at least there are consequences. A-Train knowingly sacrificing his own life to get justice for his brother with one last run that he knows will likely kill him, to also, I think, in many ways, pay for A-Train's own sins, I thought was pretty darn poetic. I thought that was excellent. I thought that, this was a very tough storyline for A-Train, which was very damning to him as well. And I thought they really did a nice job with it. And I think it's a step to maybe making A-Train somewhat redeemable. I know a lot of you, I saw in the comments of my breakdowns this season of you'll never forgive A-Train. You hate A-Train. He's despicable. How do you feel with this latest development? I thought, and also to see how you could kill someone with speed, I thought that was very interestingly handled. We've seen A-Train run through people, but now you saw a little something extra. Oh, and A-Train takes a punch to the face from Huey, who of course realizes that an apology is not enough, and A-Train feels that punch. That's right, the word is getting out on V24, because A-Train is absolutely shocked that Huey's suddenly so strong. I love that he's like, how did I feel that? What's happening? And Butcher versus Homelander. So Homelander's aware that something's going on too. All right, let's talk about this amazing fight at the end of the episode. Both thrilling and a bit of a tease, which I guess is a perfect fight for Herogasm. It's just a big tease, a lot of foreplay. Because this is where Invincible, another Amazon show produced by Seth Rogen about superheroes, has the edge. Because with animation, they can do so much more than live action. They can go all the way. And I think you could see the budget restraints, particularly during this episode. But lucky for the boys, Homelander's real weakness is his emotional vulnerability, and that's real cheap to portray. So we got a lot of that. That was great. I loved it when Homelander shows up and sees that Butcher is with Soldier Boy. And Homelander smiles and says, this really is all about me. Because of course, just like last week, Maeve is like, it's not always about you. And he's like, it's not paranoia if they really are out to get you. And then of course, this week he again finds out that he's not imagining it. Everyone's coming after him. This all is just a ploy to get him. And in a way, I think something that Homelander likes about that is that it is a bit like being loved, which of course is what he wants so badly. I mean, at the very least, everyone's thinking about you and you are the center of attention, right? So I think that element is there. It's that old, if I can't be loved, I'll be feared or I'll be hated, right? At least it's some strong emotion. Homelander also, when he sees Butcher, he directly references the conversation they have in episode 1. I know a lot of you insisted that that was not real. It was real. Homelander talks about it here. He says, we had a deal. It would be just you versus me. And then he says, you're cheating by bringing Soldier Boy into the mix. And he uses his heat vision to take out Butcher, at least he thinks he does. And then it's Soldier Boy versus Homelander. And I love the exchange where it's like, is Homelander the knockoff of Soldier Boy or the upgrade? It seems like the upgrade because, well, at first they seem like a good match. Homelander gets the upper hand. But I think Butcher's his true nemesis. Seeing them fight each other was fantastic. And again, their powers to a degree mimic each other. Even the fact that Butcher can't fly because it allows one of them to be at different levels. But that's right, Butcher comes back into the fight, much to Homelander's shock, and they trade blows. This was far more satisfying than watching Homelander versus Soldier Boy, because there's just so much drama between these two men. This fight means something, and I just thought it was fantastic. But Homelander's strong. That's why everybody wants to take him out. That's why he's like ruling the world. And he gets the upper hand even with Butcher. But Soldier Boy jumps back in, and Huey literally pops in, which also throws Homelander. I think they have Homelander on the ropes, not only physically, but I think they're doing a good job having a lot of surprises. And they all tag team Homelander and take him all on at once, and it reminded me of like a Justice League style fight. I thought that was really cool to see. And they almost get him, but it takes Soldier Boy too long to get it up. It's Herogasm. We got to do the pun. But I'm going to chicken out on this next pun and just say that Homelander escapes. Right? And you all thought Homelander was going to lose his powers. Maybe he will. There's 2 episodes left to go. He came awfully close here. How about you? Do you want him to lose his powers? I know some of you have been like, oh, I hope that doesn't happen. Some of you are like, I hope it does happen. I think it would be cool to see Homelander explore what it's like to just be a man, to only have his humanity. So I'm excited for you to see where the rest of the season goes. Now, this leads to an incredible shot of Homelander back at his headquarters at Vought, looking in the mirror with a black eye. Oh my gosh, marble statues don't get black eyes, right? But humans do. And that's why this scene is so powerful. Not only that Homelander is injured, but this is a callback to the scene that he has earlier in the episode where he's talking to himself. Now, at first I was like, are they trying to say Homelander has a split personality and then that other persona is responsible for all the things that he does that are bad? Because, that persona was like, who's taking care of you? Who's gotten you through the rough patches, right? And in an effort to make Homelander more sympathetic. But I think the fact that the tougher persona isn't in this second scene and that Homelander's just looking at his face in the mirror with this black eye, I think it shows that's just something Homelander imagined to talk himself up, to psych himself up. Remember, back in season 2, in the cabin, Homelander was, kind of talking to himself as well as Doppelganger became him, right? For a really infamous scene. And in that conversation with himself, although it was technically Doppelganger, Homelander decided he didn't need to be loved, that he didn't have that weakness. But that, of course, was a lie, because he's right back here this season. He even asks himself, how many times are you going to fly into this brick wall? The need to be loved, the thing that makes him human. And, Homelander's darker side just wants to cut that out so he can just be, a pure soup. And I think Homelander, by the way, keeps imagining himself talking to himself because he's all he has. He's all he has. And I do admit that this storyline of Homelander needing to be loved is going in circles at this point. It started since season 1. We're already at season 3, and we haven't really had any progress here. But don't worry, by the end of season 3, we will. And I really loved what they did with this. Speaking of Homelander, also Homelander is beginning to become more like Stan Edgar, right? Not so easy running Vought, is it? Especially at the beginning of this episode when he and the Deep see that Soldier Boy is back and Homelander's first thought is protecting the corporate image. So I thought that was great. As for Soldier Boy, you can see what I was talking about in my non-spoiler review with the character starting to become very one-dimensional. I think that's partially the writing. I think that's partially Jensen Ackles' performance. He's a crass, bigot, ex-military grandpa who just happens to be in a young soup's body. But you'll discover in hindsight when you see the rest of the season that he's actually saying some very important things here that I don't want to highlight because it'll give away spoilers. But it's hard to focus the first time around anyway on exactly what he's saying because all you hear is that he was friends with Bill Cosby, and while you think it's just that he didn't know about Bill Cosby, it turns out he did because he makes that really tasteless joke about Cosby mixing very strong drinks. As Huey says, whoa, a lot to unpack there. By the way, it turns out, I also thought this was a great Easter egg, that Soldier Boy started Herogasm back in 1952 with Liberty, who of course was Stormfront's identity for a while. So that's a great way to get her back in there. And on that note, another great line during this episode was when A-Train is upset about Blue Hawk and tells Ashley, I thought we got rid of all the Nazis around here, which of course is a reference to how Vought got started in Stormfront. Another great line when Huey tells Soldier Boy that he needs him and Butcher to track down the payback team, because Huey says, do you know what GPS is? Bluetooth, internet? And I love that Soldier Boy said, you just made those words up. That was a great line. And I thought Jensen Ackles had very good delivery there. That was really, really funny. Although they haven't used any of those things to find anyone. That was just a funny line. Plus, by the way, Huey's ear is leaking. That cannot be good. He and Starlight still fighting. She is not into changing up who's the hero and who's the damsel in distress, even some of the time. Especially when Huey teleports her away from Herogasm to try and protect her, but she doesn't think she needs protecting. And of course, that also means they're both naked when they, end up on the, when they teleport away due to his powers. I know some of you are really on Starlight's side, and I do think that, it's unfair to ask Starlight to be lesser to make Huey feel better. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying she should be sympathetic to the fact that Huey doesn't feel that he has value. And she should be helping him find a way so that he doesn't feel that way anymore. I know some of you are like, that's Huey's problem. That's something Huey has to deal with. But they're a couple, so it's really both their problem. And I think leaving someone on their own, I think Huey's a good guy. I think to villainize his feelings of inadequacy is not the right play there. That's not really a sympathetic thing to do to your partner. But anyway, long story short about their whole situation this episode, Starlight realizes what Butcher did last episode, and that's that V, Compound V, V24, it only enhances the drama a person already has going on inside of them. So she says, I thought the drugs were making you all crazy, but it's just making things worse. I don't think so in that case. Maybe, I don't see that. I just see, the situation escalating because Huey has decided to take this path to make himself feel better about himself. But then she blasts Huey, but don't worry, he's fine. He's hopped up on V24, so he's pretty invulnerable. But Starlight's not fine. Interestingly, just like Homelander, she's tired of people telling her what to do. She doesn't like being tied down any more than Homelander does. She doesn't like Huey telling her what to do. She doesn't like Homelander telling her what to do. By the way, I think it's interesting that just like he did with Maeve, Homelander starts to believe the lie of their PR relationship because he needs someone to love him. So that line starts to blur even here when they're getting ready for the news interview, which I thought was really interesting. And then Victoria Newman tries to tell her what to do because Newman has guessed that Starlight and Huey know she's the head popper. So she says, hey, I have a deal for you. I'll protect you from Homelander. I'm like, how the heck are you going to do that? But she says, if I'll protect you from Homelander, Starlight, if you use your popularity to boost her popularity, Newman's popularity, so that Newman can get more done in government and pass her bills and things like that because she'll have a better rating. Starlight calls her bluff because she's just tired of being people's pawn and people using her popularity. And apparently, speaking of that popularity, she's too popular to kill, at least for now. But that doesn't mean Newman can't give Starlight's brain a little squeeze, as we see with the blood leaking out of her nose. That's a little scary, and I wonder if Newman could pop Starlight or Homelander's brain. Who does Starlight use her popularity to help? Not Vought, not Homelander, not Newman, but herself. That was a great twist. She goes live at the Carnage After Herogasm and decides to shine a light on the truth, thank you very much, that supes are horrible people who only care about themselves, and Homelander is the worst of them all. She even says he's done something to Maeve, I believe, in an effort to get Vought to at least have some kind of answer there, because now the general public are going to demand where Maeve is. And she gives up her soup name. She says, call me Annie January now. And I'm like, that still sounds a lot like a soup name. She certainly still sounds like a comic book character. And she quits Vought. She's like, as I said, she's like, I'm now an influencer. Perhaps the most powerful thing of all. I realized something this episode, though, which made me like Starlight more, and that's that she and MM are very alike, which is totally why they team up. They are the responsible ones. They literally, in this episode, have to clean up after Butcher and Huey and Soldier Boy, but really just Butcher and Huey. But as Bob Evans recently said in The Offer, another great streaming show over on Paramount+, you need brains and balls. And right now on The Boys, the brains and balls are separated. You got team brains and you got team balls. And separate, they aren't as effective as together. So I think that's great. But those really are the two teams. has some pretty good development this episode too. We finally hear exactly what happened with Soldier Boy and his family, but I wish we'd seen it. But alas, again, budgetary restraints. But did a pretty darn good job telling the story. And why does by the way, keep having to be talked down from attacking Soldier Boy? How does he not realize that's a suicide mission? And also, has a little girl who he's very devoted to, so I don't get that at any cost vibe off of So I know Butcher keeps telling him come on, I'm not going to let you do this, and but I'm surprised that needs to keep hearing that. And if I were Butcher, I'd be like, you're too smart for this. Come up with a better plan. Although the plan to knock out Soldier Boy doesn't work when he throws that gas grenade at him. So they're going to have to come up with something else. Although when Butcher does stop I think that mirrors Huey stopping Starlight, right? Team Balls saying, hey, you're Team Brains, stay out of the balls section. And I think, no team likes being told what to do. And I think that makes them even more frustrated and a little bit more of loose cannons. People rage against that. And that's kind of also a theme through this whole episode. People are raging against someone else telling them who they are and what they can do. Finally, 2 more storylines to touch on. As I said, there's a lot going on here. Kimiko and Frenchie continue to try and escape their past and have a happily ever after, but their past ain't having it. Little Nina humiliates Frenchie by tying up naked in front of Kimiko and Sherry, and not only humiliating him in terms of calling him like a dog that wants to be abused, but making it very clear that she and Frenchie have been intimate. And I can't get a read, by the way, on how Frenchie feels about both Kimiko and Sherry. Are these women romantic interests for him or like sisters? Maybe Frenchie isn't even sure. But anyway, little Nina tells Frenchie to choose which one she's going to kill, Kimiko or Sherry. But Kimiko, she breaks free, and even without her powers, turns the table and takes the guards out while little Nina escapes. And even Sherry kind of gets in on the action, but wow, Kimiko is brutal. But then again, just as Butcher again said, Kimiko discovers that Compound V didn't make her a monster. That's who she is even without it. And I'd be like, you're not a monster, you're a survivor. It wasn't your idea to kill those guards. They put you in a situation where you had no choice. Soldier Boy is full of it when he says he only takes out the ones who have it coming. But I feel with Kimiko, that's true. She can be an anti-hero. People love anti-heroes. I think Kimiko, I would tell Kimiko I feel her conscience is clean. By the way, I watched a behind-the-scenes video about the shooting of the musical last week, and it was so interesting to see Karen Fukuhara talking in her normal voice, and talking at all, because this is largely a silent role. She's so different than Kimiko, I think it really underscores what a great actress she is. And then, of course, Black Noir. This storyline's about to get real interesting with the final 2 episodes. But here, Homelander first goes to Black Noir for answers, because obviously Black Noir served with Soldier Boy back in the day on Payback. I know a lot of you are just still so married to who Black Noir was in the comics, but that storyline is gone. They're not doing that. But as soon as Homelander leaves Black Noir goes AWOL, cutting out his tracking chip in the elevator. And I have to say, that woman in that scene is the one who really sold it. She did a great job. And sure enough, when Soldier Boy confronts TNT, they tell him it was Black Noir's idea to hand him over to the Russians. Oh, I can't wait for you to see what happened here. As I said, it's getting real good. Oh, and I sure hope Gal Gadot doesn't watch The Boys or anyone tells her about it, because not only did the show make fun of her, but every celebrity who agreed to participate in that spoof was making fun of Gal Gadot. That was aggressive. And I didn't think it was that funny. So I don't know. I thought it was very aggressive against Gal Gadot. Was the Imagine video stupid and, just smacking of celebrity hubris and being out of touch? Yes, it was. But I think Gal Gadot is a nice person who came from a nice place, and I don't think she deserves to be made fun of that forever. Although maybe some of you thought it was a real hoot. All right, I would think Gal Gadot would maybe run into some of those people, and I just don't know if it was funny enough for them to create that beef. All right, so anyway, 2 more episodes left to go, and they just get better and better. What are you hoping happens by the end of season 3? And what do you think might happen? Share those thoughts and theories down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.